Hey, welcome to Sharkfinger. It's Shadow here, and today I'll be walking you through how to make a basic 2D platformer controller in Godot. The first thing we have to do is create a 2D scene by clicking this button. Now we are going to build an environment for our character to run around in, so click the plus in the top left, search for static body 2D, and hit enter. Then we want to create a collision shape 2D as a child of the static body, and set its shape to rectangle. Then we want to create a mesh instance 2D as a child of the static body, set its mesh to a box mesh, and scale it up so that it looks the same size as the collider. Then we want to select the static body and change its scale so it becomes a platform instead of a cube. Finally, we move it up a bit so we have our first platform. Now you can duplicate it with Ctrl D and move the duplicates around to form a bit of a level. You can also hold middle mouse and drag to pan the scene view. After that, we need to be able to see the world when we play the game, so create a camera 2D. After you've built an environment for the player to run around in, we want to set up the player node. Let's start by creating a character body 2D. Then, to be able to see the character, you can either create a mesh instance 2D and set its mesh to a capsule, or you can create a sprite 2D and drag an image file into the texture slot in the inspector. Make sure you create it as a child of the character body and scale it up or down if you need to. Also, if you are using a sprite like I am, you may need to go into the texture tab in the inspector and change the filter option to make your character look crisp instead of blurry. Finally, we need to add collision to our character, so let's add a collision shape 2D as a child of the character and set its shape to capsule. If you need to, you can use these orange dots to resize the collider. Now that we have a character set up, we need to write the code for how the player works. So let's create a script and call it player. Let's start by creating a script on the character body and clearing it out. Make sure not to delete the bit at the top. Now we need to tell Godot what inputs to watch for, so we need to go to Project, Project Settings, Input Map. Click on Add Action, type Move Left, and hit Enter. Now that we have an action, we need to bind an input to it. We do this by clicking the plus here, pressing the key we want to bind to the action, then clicking OK. Finally, we repeat the few steps we just did to create a move right action and a jump action. Back in the script, we need a variable to store our movement speed in, and a variable to store what direction the player wants to move in. So we write var speed equals 300, and var movement semicolon vector 2. Now we want to get input from and move the player every physics tick, so we use the physics process function with func underscore physics underscore process delta. Inside the function, we want to get the direction the player wants to move in with movement.x equals input.getAxis, move left, move right. Then we multiply the direction by our movement speed. After that, we apply our movement velocity with velocity equals movement and move the player by calling move and slide. Now, if you save the script and run the game, you should be able to move the character left and right. However, the character can't jump and doesn't fall, so let's fix that. Back in the script, we need a variable to store the gravity we want to use and what speed the player should jump at. We do this by writing var gravity equals project settings.getSetting physics/2D/default gravity, and var jump velocity equals -400. In this case, we are grabbing our gravity value from what gravity is set to in the project settings, and our jump velocity is negative because in Godot the y-axis is positive downwards when working in 2D. After that, we want to apply gravity to the character when they are in the air. We do this by writing if not is on floor, movement.y plus equals gravity times delta. And when the character is on the ground, we want to watch for the jump input and make the character jump when it's pressed. We write elif input.isActionJustPressed jump movement.y equals jump velocity. Now if you save and run the game, you should be able to run and jump around the environment. Now there's one final step in this character controller, which not all 2D games use, but it is useful to have a basic version set up. That is to have the camera follow the character. Back in the script, we need a reference to the camera in the scene, so we add a variable named camera and use @export to create a slot in the inspector for it. Then back in the physics process, we update the camera's position to be the same as the player's with camera.position equals position. Finally, we drag the camera to the slot in the inspector and it should all be set up. Now just save and run the game and the camera should follow the player around. Now this is just a very basic character controller. There are a lot of improvements that can be made to this controller which you should at least consider implementing if you are trying to make a full game. I'm working on a follow-up video on a more advanced 2D character controller. Anyways, thanks for watching. If this tutorial was helpful, leave a like. If you want to follow along with my game's progress or want to keep up with any other tutorials I put out, consider subscribing. So see ya and have a good day.